Hey everybody, Chuck Holton here. How's it going? Thank you for joining us tonight on CBN's CBN News YouTube channel. I'm Chuck Holton, and like I said, I am on here tonight to talk to you about the breaking news coming out of Lebanon, where thousands of Hezbollah operatives have been injured by exploding pagers. And so we have some new information that's this has just been happening in the last couple of hours. It is currently about 7 o'clock. So in the last 3 hours is when this started happening. It apparently more than 2,700 people have been injured by these exploding devices. Now they apparently, so here, I'm going to try to sum it up for you, and then we'll get into some more of the details. But what appears to have happened is that Hezbollah operatives in the last several days have received a shipment of supposedly secure communications devices that would allow them to communicate off of the regular cell phone networks, which they are very paranoid about being tapped by Israel, and probably rightly so. They received the thousands of devices that would have allowed them to text message each other or call each other, whatever. And they apparently today, all at once, they all spontaneously combusted. And that spontaneously combusted actually resulted in more than 2,000 injuries. They're saying 2,600 or 2,700 injuries now, at least 40 deaths. Now, the Arab media is already blaming this on the Israelis. And there is some precedent for this. I just did a live a few minutes ago on my own channel, The Hot Zone with Chuck Holton. You can go over and watch that. And we were talking more about this. The Mossad has a long history of using booby-trapped devices to go after its enemies. And so this would be no departure from things that they have already done in the past. Somebody's asking, can I clarify what the device is? I have not seen yet what brand or make or model or anything of the devices is. It doesn't necessarily matter because it's not, I think from what we do know right now, what it sounds like may have happened is that somehow maybe the Mossad was able to infiltrate and get information that these secure communications devices, some people are calling them pages, some people pagers, some people are calling them cellular devices, that somebody got wind in the Mossad that these pagers were going to be delivered to Hezbollah, and maybe even have had something to do with it. And I'll talk more about that in a minute, with them actually, deciding to get these pagers. They shipped them out, and somehow a third party, which everybody's ascribing to Israel right now, was able to intercept those devices and maybe upload some malware, maybe even implant some small device or material inside those devices that would respond to a signal from a remote location that would cause them to spontaneously combust in a catastrophic fashion right away. That is, some people are saying they're Motorola's. I don't know. I don't think it's germane really, in that it probably would cause trouble for that company to try to speculate on it. Obviously, when you hear about people's devices going off in their pocket and catastrophically exploding, it kind of makes me not want to carry my phone around in my pocket anymore. It makes me want to put it like way over here somewhere, out of reach. And the information that we're getting is that all of these devices made a sound that caused their owner to reach for them, to pull them out, hold them up to their ear, whatever, and then they spontaneously combusted. This is not unprecedented, like I said. If you look back into the 1970s, all the way back then, the Mossad was infiltrating. Back then, it was the precursors to Hezbollah. It was, the PLO and other Black September, other organizations, and was implanting explosive devices in everyday items. Whether it was there were several cases where they implanted items like that in telephones, landline telephones, cars, even office chairs, and they managed to replace, or briefcases, replace the booby trap device with the non-booby trap device that they had information about some leader in these organizations possessing. So, for example, there's one case where a Palestinian liberation organization leader was living in, I think, Tunisia, and he had a certain type of office chair, and they managed to replace his office chair with one that had a device inside it that when they pushed a button, they could remotely cause that office chair to catastrophically detonate, and just took the guy out, just took him off the playing field. There were other times where they managed to replace the receiver on a landline phone with some C4 or something like that. And then when they had their own people in the IDF listening on his phone calls. And so when he picked up the phone to make a call, before they pushed the button, they had their Arab linguists determine that, yes, this was him by his voice. They knew his voice. And then they pushed the button and just took him off the playing field. So as they say on Instagram, chitty, chitty, bang, bang, this guy was perhaps in so doing, there were times when civilians were injured, and without a doubt, in a case like this, of this scale that we saw today, there's a good chance that there were civilians that were partially, were part of those who were wounded. So more information is coming out all the time as we speak about this. I'm going to go down here and just read you some off of Amir Tsarfati's Telegram channel. Now, before I do that, though, let me just say this. Just before this happened, Israel, the Israeli War Cabinet convened last night in Tel Aviv, and after their long meeting, they updated their written objectives for this war to include doing whatever necessary to return the people who live in the northern part of Israel to their homes. That is now it's always been a goal ever since they had to leave their homes because of the threat from Hezbollah. But now they put it in writing and made it official. And it seems to me, as we look at the sequence of events here, it's likely that, or at least very possible, that that was done now. I mean, because you have to ask yourself, like, why didn't the Israeli War Cabinet make this one of their written goals, 11 months ago? I mean, obviously, this is something that they've been trying to do. They've been fighting hard against Hezbollah from the air in this sort of limited fashion, as Hezbollah has continued to fire dozens or even hundreds of munitions across the border into Israel on a daily basis. So why didn't they make this declaration earlier? Well, now we see what happened today, and it's like a 1-2 punch. You kind of go like, oh, okay, I see what direction they're heading here. They've been saying that the news up until this happened was saying that this declaration, putting it in writing, that they had to do whatever necessary to get the people back to their homes in the north. This meant that Israel was going to have to now go into Lebanon on the ground with troops to create a buffer zone that's free of the dangers from Hezbollah, so that people could go home. And so it made the likelihood of a ground incursion into Lebanon much, much more likely. Well, that was before this happened. So now we see, as Amir is reporting, the pager explosions, according to initial reports, occurred in the Dahia, Beirut, southern part of Beirut, the Bekaa Valley, the Nabatea, Bint Jebel, and in southern Lebanon, as well as in Syria. There was some reports of this, one of these devices going off in Syria in a car that was apparently loaded with other explosives that then all sympathetically detonated and caused the demise of, I think, 4 people who were riding in that car. Okay? So you look at that coming right on the heels of the War Cabinet making this declaration, and what the direction they're heading is, there are going to be Israeli troops inside Lebanon in very short order. As a matter of fact, I would say, I was talking to somebody just a few minutes ago, if they don't go in tonight, they're missing an opportunity. Right now, Hezbollah is in chaos. They just had thousands of their operatives wounded or killed. They have no idea if all of their communications are compromised. They don't know who they can trust. They don't know how the Israelis knew that they were all going to get these new devices. They don't know if the Israelis actually created the devices. And so they are in chaos right now. And a whole lot of their soldiers are missing a hand or something worse because they had it in their pocket. So in my opinion, if Israel doesn't very quickly follow up with a knockout blow, then this 1-2 punch will have been wasted. Now, what we will find right now, what we're about to see, I would say, is just how much pull or how much power the United States has over Israel in terms of being able to force them to do what we want them to do, what the United States wants them to do, rather than what Israel feels like is in its best interests. Because the United States administration under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has been very heavily pressuring Israel to not go in yet, to put off the incursion into Lebanon until after the election. Now, understand that this has absolutely nothing at all to do with what's good for Israel. This is not thinking, well, how can the United States best support Israel? Well, maybe we can best support you after the election. No, this is all political, 100%. It's very similar to Kamala Harris saying, if you elect me, I will do this, 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 and this, when she's in power right now. If she really was serious about doing those things, she could do them now. What this has to do with is that in the political calculus that the Biden-Harris administration is making, Israel going into Lebanon on the ground right now would hurt their chances for re-election in some sense. And so they're trying to get them to wait until after the election. Well, here's where this becomes a double-edged sword, because if that's the case, if it's that clear to the leadership in Israel that waiting until after the election would make it easier for the Harris administration to do something to help, then the unspoken reality of that request by the United States, if not command, is that going in now would hurt the current administration's chances of getting reelected. So then Bibi Netanyahu and his cabinet have got to sit back and say, well, which of the two candidates running for president in the United States of America would be better for Israel? And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out which one would better support Israel, because both of them now have both the Biden-Harris administration and the Trump administration have a history that they can look at and that will tell them who will support them more. That being the case, the calculus then becomes on the part of Bibi Netanyahu, if we go in now, we might actually be able to affect the U.S. election in our favor. And that means in some way, the Harris administration actually trying to dissuade Netanyahu from going in now might actually make it more likely for him to do so. Does that make sense? And it's this kind of political theater is, man, what high drama we're witnessing here. Unbelievable. Okay? So I want to go back for those that are just joining us, because I'm watching the number of viewers we have online, and we have a lot of people. Lebanese news sources, Arab news sources, are absolutely abuzz tonight with videos and photographs of wounded Hamas operatives and many killed as well. Lebanese sources are saying, according to Amir Tsarfati, that the number of wounded has exceeded 3,000. And we've also seen according to Manny's War Room on Telegram, that at least 200 of the wounded are in serious condition, according to the Lebanese health minister. And there are 40 who have been eliminated. 40 Hezbollah operatives who have lost their lives in this case. And so this is, like I said, it's not unprecedented if the Mossad was able to somehow infiltrate or even hack into some devices and then cause them to, spontaneously combust in the user's hand. That's not unprecedented, because there are several times throughout the Mossad's history where they have done just that in Lebanon. But what is unprecedented is the scale of this. 3,000 people injured at once with all of these devices going off simultaneously. That is unprecedented. Now, obviously, Israeli media and social media is just giddy. They're beside themselves with this. This is really a coup in terms of military strategy. Especially if most of those guys were right-handed and they caused them to beep or somehow make an alert sound, which would cause those guys to reach into their pocket and pull them out in their hand. They just managed to blow off the trigger fingers of about 3,000 Hezbollah operatives. That is mind-boggling. That is the cleverness of an operation like that just is almost beyond words. Hezbollah, in its first statement on these things, says that it's investigating the blast that led to the deaths of 2 operatives and a young girl and injured many others. That's the statement from Hezbollah. You can imagine that Hezbollah's version of events that they put out for the public is going to look very different from the actual reality of what happened. If looking at the Hamas or Gaza Health Ministry is any indication of what we will see from them. But just a few minutes ago, Manny's War Room says Lebanon's health minister reports that 8 were killed and some 2,800 were wounded in the pager blast. So the numbers are fluctuating a little bit, but the videos and photographs that are coming out on social media, on X and on Telegram, are horrific. There are videos of hospitals across Beirut absolutely packed to the gills with wounded, people laying on the floors, bleeding all over the place, people running, sirens going off. I'm posting some of these videos over on my website, chuckholton.com, just because I can't show them to you here on YouTube or they would demonetize us in a heartbeat, right? I mean, obviously the graphic nature of this event does not lend itself to us showing you much of what actually happened. But I am putting it up for anybody to see on chuckholton.com. So you can go there, or you can go just look on Telegram or Twitter, and you can find some of the videos there. But this is wow, a big deal. Like I said, with all of these wounded, with Hezbollah in chaos, not knowing who they can trust, they've already been very paranoid, not knowing how to communicate now because their secure form of communication that they had in place just literally evaporated, not figuratively, literally kablooey, went up in smoke, along with a lot of the people who were carrying those devices. And so this is a moment that Israel has created, or ostensibly, I mean, perhaps Israel has created. We don't know for sure because Israel is not claiming this. You wouldn't expect them to, but this is a moment, whether or not this event was caused by Israel, this is a moment where Israel has a chance to maybe not decapitate the organization, which they have been trying to do for some time, but to, at the very least, press their advantage and to keep their enemy on the back foot. And that would mean that right now is the time for Israel to strike. So we will see what happens. You're going to want to stay tuned because we don't know. I'm looking on now on Hezbollah's website, and Hezbollah is, well, I gotta scroll down. Hezbollah is showing many, their Telegram channel is showing many ambulances evacuating the wounded. They're also showing that Israel, the IAF, is striking targets, continuing to strike targets from the air inside Lebanon. And they're showing pictures of that. Hezbollah just made their official statement, announcement saying, quote, after the tests we conducted, we placed the responsibility for what happened on the Israeli enemy. the criminal enemy will pay an adequate recompense for this aggression. That's an official announcement that just came out a couple of minutes ago from Hezbollah. You can expect that Hezbollah will immediately seek to retaliate in force for what's happened. This is probably the most devastating strike so far that the Israelis have made against Hezbollah. And arguably, you could say that taking out 6,000 of their launchers was a larger strike in terms of taking out their combat power, but taking off the trigger fingers of a few thousand of their soldiers is no mean feat. So this is why I'm saying that it's time. I mean, right now, Israel has got to be looking at how much further they can press their advantage. And it's undoubtedly the case that they were thinking about that before this happened. Mary asks, Chuck, how does this technology work? Well, we don't know exactly. Let me just try, and I have to be careful, Mary, because of the algorithm here on YouTube. If I'm not careful about the way that the words that I use, then this video will get demonetized, and sometimes even we'll get in trouble. The whole channel will get in trouble. So even though I'm trying to seriously report the news here, I have to be a little cagey about the way that I report it. So I hope you'll forgive me for having to do that. To answer your question, we don't know exactly what caused all this or what the system was that was used to cause all of these devices to spontaneously combust simultaneously. However, if we read the history of some of the other similar operations that the Mossad has conducted inside Lebanon to take out their enemies, what they have done in the past is they have gotten a hold of a device of some sort. Like I said, it could be an office chair, it could be a telephone. There are more things, or it could be a car, whatever. They then implant into that device some plastique, C4, something that will cause harm to the person that's in the vicinity of that device when it is activated. Okay? So, yeah, I mean, so somebody's saying you can Google how it works. It's out there. Well, they certainly have the capability of doing it. They've had the capability since the 1970s of doing this. You know, Israel was the first country in the world to use drones to take out their enemies. And that was back in the 80s they were doing that. Remotely piloted aircraft. So they have the capability to do it. But whether there's two possibilities I can see here just based on what I know. Number one, the Mossad managed to intercept these shipments of these devices, implant something harmful in the device with a method of, remotely detonating that thing. And then they just let them go through the supply chain and get distributed to the members of Hezbollah. And when they figure that, the time is right, somebody hits a key in Tel Aviv, in a bunker somewhere, and kablooey, it goes off. That's one way. The other possible scenario I see here is that they managed to infiltrate perhaps even the supply chain, maybe even the manufacturer of these devices, and managed to infiltrate that particular lot, that order of devices with some malware that would cause these devices to overheat and spontaneously, catastrophically just erupt, right? Now, all of you probably have the experience of having, opened too many, apps on your phone and having it it's in your pocket and like, man, this thing's getting hot. Like, wow, what's wrong with my phone here? And usually you just restart your phone and it cools off and then it's fine. You just had too many apps open or something. Maybe you had the location device on or your camera open or something like that, and it just heated your phone up. Well, if that can be done, then it's certainly feasible that there would be a way for hackers to, get into your operating system and in some way cause your phone to overheat in some form or fashion where it would catastrophically overheat in a short amount of time. And there is some information coming out that these batteries in these phones or pagers, whatever they were, did start to overheat. Some people even took them out of their pockets and turned them off or set them aside because they were getting too hot. So we don't know exactly how they did it. There's going to be a lot of speculation about that. There will probably be a lot of conspiracy theory about that. But I don't know about you, but hearing that 3,000 or more devices like this just spontaneously combusted in people's pockets makes me want to maybe not carry this thing around in my pocket so much. You know what I'm saying? And if it does that to me, you can imagine what it's doing to the psyche of Hezbollah. This is psychological warfare as much as anything. And these guys are in absolute chaos at this point. It's just crisis mode. Hezbollah is running around like a chicken with its head cut off. It doesn't know what to do because somehow, if this was Israel that caused this to happen, somehow Israel had to get information that Hezbollah was planning to replace all of its communication devices with this particular device. And then they had to figure out a way to get access to those devices, and not all of the devices made by that manufacturer, but just the ones that were going to Hezbollah, because obviously Israel doesn't want to cause this to happen to, every Motorola phone on the planet or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Am I calling this a cyber attack? Well, not necessarily. What I'm saying is that it could have been a cyber attack that was perpetrated by, hackers hacking into the phone's software and putting in malware. But it could have also been a lot more legacy kind of attack than that. It could have actually been, pallets of these devices getting secretly rerouted through Israel, and a bunch of guys in a workshop in there taking them apart, packing them full of plastique, putting them back together very carefully, putting them back in the packaging, and sending them on to their destination. That would not have been a cyber attack, but it is certainly a possibility, especially since they have done this in the past. And so has the CIA, for that matter. So have other intelligence organizations around the globe. This is not some kind of Star Wars thing. This is something that is very much within the realm of reality and possibility from any reasonably advanced state actor. I mean, we saw lots of, in Iraq and Afghanistan, lots of devices, IEDs, that were created by these Taliban or Al-Qaeda operatives that made very good use of modern technology in terms of cellular phones and other electronics in order to create improvised devices that would be easy to operate from a distance, from a remote area. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that it was just some very good hackers figuring out a way to hack into the operating system of these things and short out the battery. I mean, if you go back to the Stuxnet virus, okay? I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. I'm going to just read you a little history on the Stuxnet virus. The Stuxnet was a malicious computer worm that was uncovered in 2010, but it was being developed for about 5 years before that. And what it targets a very certain system in a nuclear centrifuge. And it caused the centrifuges to operate at speeds that would damage those centrifuges. Okay? So as Iran was attempting to push forward their nuclear program and refine uranium, plutonium, whatever, into some sort of weapons grade, well, there was this malicious computer worm that showed up on the scene and made it, and really set them back. It really damaged a lot of these, they're called programmable logic controllers, okay? And they're in all sorts of electronic, but these particular ones were focused on the ones that were in the centrifuges that they need for their nuclear program. And they caused them to spin out of control and blow up, basically. So this is back in 2010. Now, this is believed to have originated from the United States, with perhaps some help from Israel. It was really an amazing story how they got it in there, because these devices, Stuxnet devices, were, I'm sorry, not Stuxnet devices. The devices that they were targeting in the nuclear program, the centrifuges, were air-gapped, meaning they weren't connected to the internet. So it wasn't like a hacker in Tel Aviv could somehow worm his way into those things and install this virus on those programmable logic controllers. Instead, they had to figure out a way to get that virus into these facilities where these were and get them loaded onto those programmable logic controllers without doing so through the internet. And so what they came up with was they put this is crazy, they put the virus on thumb drives, and they would leave these thumb drives laying around in places where they knew the people who worked at the nuclear program for Iran hung out. Coffee shops, park benches, even on the ground, just outside their house or something. And they would put different things on them so that on the thumb drive, make them think it was pirated movies or pornography or something, games or music or something like that. Anything to get them to plug those things into a computer inside the facility. If they plugged them into a computer outside the facility, it wouldn't have helped. But eventually, somebody picked up one of those thumb drives and carried it into the nuclear facility and plugged it into their computer to see what was on it. And when that happened, then the Stuxnet virus was in, it wormed its way through the whole system, and it set back the Iranian nuclear program likely 10 years. It was a big deal. It was a very big deal. So if they had the wherewithal to do that technologically in 2010, 14 years ago, there's no question that they have the ability to do things like that today. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's what happened. A cyber attack could have implanted these things later. I'm spitballing here. I'm a novelist, so I'm coming up with things just from my own experience. It's not out of the realm of possibility that there are ways. I just am trying to be careful with how I say this, because I don't want to tell bad people things they don't need to know. And I don't want to accidentally stumble on something on a what we call a TTP, tactics, techniques, and procedures, that Israel might be using against Hezbollah. I don't want to accidentally stumble on it just spitballing and end up putting information out that might help Hezbollah in any way. So I want to be careful how I say this, but it's not unlikely that the Israelis have deeply penetrated into Hezbollah's signals networks. I say signals from the military standpoint, which encompasses things like telephones and radios, okay? So they have in some way deeply penetrated those networks so that when these devices got into the hands of Hezbollah and those guys took them out of the packages and turned them on and got a connection and went, oh, okay, yeah, these work, and tried them out for the first time, that when they did that, they then opened up a channel for Israeli hackers to install malware onto the devices, which then, upon command, caused those devices to spontaneously overheat. Okay, and so it's certainly possible that they could have done it that way. But I'm just saying, having just finished reading the history of the Mossad, that in the past they have done very similar operations in ways that didn't require any computer or even internet. They just intercepted the devices, packed them full of C4 or something, and put a, speed dial number in the thing and sent it right to the guy it was supposed to go to. And then when he speed dialed grandma, boom, thing went off. Whatever. So we just don't know. And more information is coming out all the time, even as we speak. But I'm just looking here. The Syrian branch of the Islamic Jihad reports a death in its ranks in the campaign in southern Lebanon. So here's a guy, Muhammad Abdullah was his name, who may have actually had access to one of these devices. Now, it also, something that needs to be pointed out is that this is not the end of this operation, because by conducting an operation like this, if indeed it was Israel, we have to keep caveating that because they have not, there's no proof that they did it. Everybody thinks they did it, but they're not going to claim it. But if it was indeed Israel, then they are not done with this operation. The next phase of this operation is to collect as much intelligence as possible about who it was who lost their trigger finger today, or other important parts of their body if they had it in their pocket. Because this information would give Israel very important data about the scope of the network that Hezbollah has created in southern Lebanon, where they are, who they are. I'll give you one case in point. It's being reported that the ambassador from Iran in Lebanon was injured by one of these devices. That means that Iran's ambassador in Lebanon was Hezbollah, and they can't deny it. That means he was involved with Hezbollah. Now, that's not a surprise to anybody, but that kind of proof, if you extrapolate that to all the things that Israel could learn from tracking these injuries, from tracking the follow-on communications, because now they're going to have to go back to non-secure communications. They can't they can't keep using these devices. And so they're going to have to go back to, regular old telephone or regular old radio. And those are easy to pick up by the IDF. So without a doubt, right now, the IDF and the Mossad they've got their ears on and they are listening hard to everything that's being said on the airwaves inside Lebanon. And they are making very good notes. They're taking copious notes on what's going on. By doing so, they're going to be able to map out Hezbollah's network in a way that maybe they couldn't have even dreamed of before. So really big deal what's going on here. Kendra says, do you think this means we are going in? Kendra, I don't know who we is. I'm not going in, at least not this week. Are you Israeli? Does that mean the IDF is going in? If I had to guess, that's okay. Hey, bring her here for a second. I just want to show off my grandbaby because, if you had a grandbaby this cute, you'd want to show her off too. Hi, baby. There's my baby. Sweet girl. Oh, you got a smile. Aw, hey, precious one. Look, she's even waving at you. Oh, yeah, she's so sweet. She's like, Dad, what's going on here? Okay, that's no baby Aurora. She's my granddaughter. So, yeah, Chuck Holton 54 is not me. Anything that is not just plain old Chuck Holton is not me. There are a ton of romance scammers out there using my likeness and my name to try to scam people out of money. And so please do not engage other than to report them as fake. There are, literally hundreds of fake accounts out there using my name and my pictures trying to scam women out of money. And far too many of them are successful, unfortunately, because there are a lot of, lonely ladies out there, I guess. But, so this is I was about to answer a question when baby came in here. Let me go back up. Do you think we're going in? So is Israel going in? I've been saying, since this happened, I've been saying, if Israel doesn't go in right now, they're crazy because they've got their enemy reeling. And if your enemy is reeling, you should help him stay that way. Do whatever you can. So I would, you know me, I don't make predictions. But if you had to guess what might be about to happen in this conflict, I would estimate that in the next, even tonight, perhaps, maybe the next 24 hours and 48 hours, we will see additional follow-on operations by the IDF and the IAF and Mossad to continue to press their advantage now against Hezbollah and to keep them from being able to strike back. Now, in addition to that, you might also say that it's not out of the realm of possibility that we would see some sort of kinetic operation out of Iran against Israel to try to throw Israel off balance and try to keep them from being able to press their advantage against Hezbollah. Because right now Iran is looking at this and saying, we just lost a whole lot of money. And everything that we wanted our proxy in Lebanon to accomplish is less likely to happen now because we have thousands more guys that are missing trigger fingers. And so this is not good. Okay. So if you are, Kendra, if you're in Iran and you're asking, are we going in? Maybe something might go in from Iran. If you're asking, if you're an American and you're asking that, no, America is not going to have troops on the ground in Lebanon or anything like that. We just don't have the stomach for that kind of war anymore, and probably won't for a generation. So unless we're forced into it, the United States, the most that the United States is going to do in terms of helping Israel is to share. They will definitely share intel with Israel. Maybe they might send a missile or a aircraft into the fray if it looks like Hamas is about to strike Israel very, very hard and cause a lot of damage or loss of life in Israel. But anything the United States is going to do is going to be in a defensive capacity, with the exception of passing along intelligence that would help Israel target their enemies better. But the United States is not going to go in with troops on the ground or a battleship off the coast, you know, shooting at the coast. That's not going to happen. Not right now, and especially not in an election year. So I don't know where you're from, Kendra, but I hope I answered your question. If you have a question, it does help if you put it in all caps and precede your question with the word question. I would suggest you do that. Mona is asking, can we see some of your adventures in Armenia? Yes, I'm putting them up over at chuckholton.com, and I'm putting them up on my YouTube channel, The Hot Zone with Chuck Holton. So you can go over there. So Chuck Holton 54 is not me. It is a scammer, a skinny Nigerian kid who is pretending to be me and trying to take your money. So if you are trying to reach out to someone called at Chuck Holton 54, you are about to be scammed. Don't do it. Okay? Chuck Holton 54 is not the real Chuck Holton. That's me. Okay? Okay. What is happening in Israel, part of the Gog and Magog war? Don't know. That's not my specialty. Chuck, are you a veteran of the U.S. military? Yes. I spent 8 years in the U.S. military, 4 years as a U.S. Army Ranger in the 75th Ranger Regiment. This is just before Black Hawk Down, that whole thing happened. And then 4 years flying helicopters in the National Guard as an Aero Scout observer, flying Kiowa OH-58 helicopters. And then I got out of the military because they didn't have enough money to keep me in. When are you going back to Israel? I will be back in Israel on the, as it stands right now, the 5th of September. I'm sorry, 5th of October. Please, Lord, because we have a tour group coming in with us. But how's my Arabic? Not good. I can say Yallah. That's about it. Yeah, there are a lot of alternative accounts in my name. They're all scammers. Somehow I got on somebody's list and they use my picture everywhere. I mean, every dating site has got people using my picture. Facebook has dozens of people using my picture. The crazy thing is, when I report them as pretending to be me, Facebook says, we don't see anything wrong with this, and they won't take them down. So there's nothing I can do about it. Except warn you right now. Be very careful if you befriend anybody on social media who's using my name. They will often also use my picture or use my picture with another name. But there you go. My final rank was Sergeant E5. Did this happen on September 16th? No, this happened today on September 17th. Let's see. All right. Question. Have you heard of the, STM? That's what we're talking about. That's what this live is all about. You must have just come on. So maybe you should, I would suggest going back to the beginning of this live and listening to it from the beginning, because that is literally the topic that we've been talking about up until the point where you got here. Okay. Let's see here. Question. If all-out war breaks out, will the USA fight for Israel? They will assist Israel, like I said, with intelligence and some defense. But they're not going to, other than that, they're not likely going to get involved, especially not before the election. No, I think it was a Samsung, Bronx guy, Gun Hillard. I think it was a Samsung phone that they were saying you couldn't fly with because it was catching fire and things like that. Even some iPhones at one time, had a problem at first when they first came out. But this is much more than that. This is something unprecedented to have thousands of these devices I'm like catastrophically combusting all at the same time. That's crazy. Please, sir, not all are Nigerian scammers. Not all Nigerians are scammers. Well, of course not. And I didn't say they were, although I went to Nigeria and there are literal universities that will train you to be a scammer in Nigeria. There are a lot, I mean, hundreds of thousands likely of Nigerians who are scammers as a profession, so much so that they have a word for people like that in Nigeria. They're called Yahoo boys. And it's a big business. Now, the Nigerian government has taken some steps to try to, put a stop to that, but they've been largely unsuccessful in doing so. Teresa Mary asked, do you think the up phone Eric Prince markets is immune? It's not called up phone. It's called the unplugged phone. And actually, I know Eric. I talk to him on a fairly regular basis. And there's a guy on our tour here in Armenia right now who has one of Eric's phones. And they would not be susceptible to this kind of, if it was hacking, to this kind of hacking. Okay, it was literally built from the ground up not to be susceptible to things like this. So if there's any phone on planet Earth that is immune to these kinds of hacking attacks or whatever they were, it would likely be that phone that Eric Prince is selling. And I'm not, a paid shill or anything. I don't own one, but they are certainly the most secure phone I've ever heard of. And they were designed to be that way. It's not even built on like another phone. It's like the whole thing is built from scratch to be secure. And I've had Eric on my podcast at the Hot Zone talking about his phone. So if you want to know more about it, you can go to the Hot Zone with Chuck Holton and search the Hot Zone for Eric Prince, and his episodes will come up, and you can go learn more about those phones there. Okay, but it's called the unplugged phone. How are civilians in Lebanon doing? It must be like a prison. Yeah, I was talking on the last live about how lots of Maronite Christians who live in Lebanon are really suffering under the persecution and the repression that they have to face from Hezbollah, because many of them live in the southern part of the country. And many of them are very worried that if Israel must come in, that they will be caught in the middle, caught in the crossfire. And so they're like, putting out stuff saying, like, we're Christians, please, we're not against you, that sort of thing. I want to be careful about how I describe that. God won't let this happen here in America because we're a godly. I'm sorry. I tried to say that with a straight face. I just couldn't quite get it out, DD. I couldn't quite get through that sentence with a straight face. I'm sorry. Let's see here. Do we have Christian families in Lebanon? Yeah, a lot. Lebanon used to be mostly Christian, but it was actually majority Christian nation, but it's not anymore. I wanted to see if there are any other questions coming up from Dan Andros. So I just got that one question from Dan, so we'll keep going through here. They took AT&T. Reach out and touch someone, literally. And no, I'm not back in Israel. I'm in Armenia at the moment. And I will be back. I'll be going from here to Jordan and then back to Israel. So I'm here on a tour. We're running a tour. We do these tours every year to Armenia, and they're great. And if you haven't been to Armenia, why not? You really should. It's nicer than most of Europe at this point. And we will be doing tours next year. So if you're interested in joining us on a tour to Armenia, just send me an email at hotzoneholton@gmail.com, and I will get you the information about the upcoming tour next year. This is the last one we're doing this year, though. Okay? So I think that's about it for now. We've got 4,200 people online. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button here on CBN's YouTube channel. And if you want to help CBN keep us in the field, if you want to support CBN and the work that we do to bring you this kind of news, you can go to cbn.com and give there. And that's where we would suggest that you donate if you're going to donate to CBN. You can also follow my channel. Go to the Hot Zone with Chuck Holton. It's just at Hot Zone Podcast on YouTube. So you can go there and subscribe to my channel as well. And I would recommend you do that. So please do. And again, go to chuckholton.com and you can see videos and photographs and news items and stuff that I'm not allowed to share with you on YouTube because it would get us demonetized. So, it's funny to me. A lot of people have been all up in arms about 5G this and 5G that. Well, I think Israel just took it to 6G and it didn't work out too well for Hezbollah. Okay, so that's all I've got for today. Whose side is Jordan on? Jordan is on Jordan's side. They're trying very hard to stay out of it, actually. And one tired mama, I'm really disappointed. You're coming on so late. I'm like, where'd she go? What happened? She's not paying attention. No, but I don't blame you a bit. You're obviously a tired mama, and that's understandable. We love you anyway. All right. God bless you. Let's pray. I think we should pray over this situation right now, and then we'll go. Lord God, we just come to you right now, and our hearts ache for this conflict, for all those who are hurting, the people who are hurting in Israel, those who are hurting in Gaza, in Judea and Samaria, in Syria, in Iran. Many of the people who live there, they don't want this. They don't want what their government is doing to happen, but they don't have any choice, and they're suffering because of it. As we always say, Lord, governments go to war, but people are the ones who suffer. And in this case, Lord, we just come and ask you to thwart the plans of evil men. We ask that you would give the leadership in the IDF and in Israel extra doses of wisdom and discernment so that they'd be able to know exactly what they should do next to bring peace in the region. That you would show them when they should, the Bible says that there's a season for everything in Ecclesiastes. And so we ask that you would show them what season this is. Is this a season for peace, a season for war, a season for dancing? What season is this for them right now? And Lord, I pray that you would give them the strength to stand and to fight for their people. I pray, Father, that you would bless Israel and bring peace in Jerusalem, that you would bring peace in the whole region, and that you would send your Son back to us soon. Lord, come, Lord Jesus. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you. We'll see you again next time here on CBN's YouTube channel. All right. God bless.